Okay, thanks. What is your name?
My name is Ruthie Rule.
Okay, that is interesting. What is that important event in your life?
One important event in my life was when I traveled to China by myself.
Man, that's cool. Can you tell me if you remember any more of those events? If that's okay, of course.
Oh, sure. Well, my sister Carly and her husband Brad and their two young sons at the time had moved to China. Brad had worked at one of the carpet companies in Dalton, Georgia, and they had transferred him there in order to open a carpet factory in China to sell carpet to the Chinese.
Okay, that's very interesting. How old were you when this event happened?
I was 34 years old.
Okay. Can you tell me how this affected you?
Yes, it made me realize what a big world we live in and what a small part of it I am within the bigger picture. It was wonderful to experience such a different culture, different people, different language, different foods. So yes, it impacted me greatly.
Did it change your day-to-day life?
I think in some ways it did because I work in Dalton, Georgia, where there's a high percentage of Hispanic people who live there who many of them don't speak English, and some of the students in our schools don't speak English. And so it gave me a greater sense of empathy for what it's like to go to a country and not understand what everyone else is saying.
Yeah. Did it change how you reacted to different cultures?
Not really. It did give me more of a sense of, like I just said, of understanding what maybe it's like to go to a different country and feel like an outsider and not necessarily understand, the cultures and the norms and the language.
Yes. How was your time there?
Oh, it was so much fun. I got to experience time in Suzhou, which is more of, I guess you could say, an up-and-coming town for factory workers. There's lots of apartments going up, being built, cranes everywhere with all these high-rises going up. Also got to go to Shanghai and to Beijing. Beijing is an older city. It's very polluted. There's very few trees, lots of concrete sidewalks and buildings. And then Shanghai is a little more of a modernized city, a little more, I guess you could say, cultured city with high fashion and entertainment. And so wherever you go in China, there's not just one China. There's different aspects to China.
Did you see many motorized vehicles? China's kind of low income.
Parts of China are low income, and so we didn't really go directly into some of those areas. But yes, on some of the roadways, we saw lots of cars. Driving through the streets, lots of cars. The Chinese drive a lot like the people drive in New York City, where there's a lot of horn blowing and people passing each other very quickly. I'm surprised we didn't see more accidents. So yeah. Lots of motorized vehicles, lots of trucks, and they look a little bit different than the trucks do here. For example, the cab is very high and flat, so the driver's almost right in the window, and smaller, and lots of bicycles and lots of electric bicycles in China.
Oh, okay. Also, please, if you would, please take a sip of that coffee if you're inclined to. And you mentioned something about food, right? Can you tell me how if that food was good and what culture was it?
Okay. In Suzhou, which is more of kind of a melting pot of different Asian cultures, there were Indian restaurants, there were Thai restaurants, Chinese restaurants, American restaurants. There was a Starbucks. There was Kentucky Fried Chicken all over China. But the food was just incredible. Whether it was Indian, Thai, or Chinese, you just can't get the authentic stuff around here like you could in China. And when we went to Beijing, we ate at one of the really old restaurants. It's been there over 300 years in the same location, and it serves Peking duck, and that was delicious.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Did you get all three of them?